Coming up on Arirang News, Israel continues to amass troops and tanks on the border to Gaza as it apparently prepares for an anticipated ground operation in response to the Palestinian militant group's largest attack in decades. The latest trade data shows that South Korea's current account surplus extended for 4 months in a row in August. But yet again, it was mainly on the back of a greater fall in imports than exports. Samsung Electronics is likely to beat market expectations in the third quarter, with its operating profit tripling from that of the quarter before. This attributed to its solid mobile and display businesses and a narrowed loss in semiconductors. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We begin with the intensifying conflict between Israel and Hamas. An imminent land attack is anticipated on Gaza as there are reports of an apparent buildup of Israeli forces on the border. The U.S. has reaffirmed full support to Israel amid concerns that the situation could cause a broader regional conflict. Our Peunji has our top story.
Israel appears to be preparing for a ground invasion of Gaza, which could pose a risk to the lives of hostages being held in the area. Although the country has not officially announced ground operations, Israeli citizens were told on Monday night to prepare to stay inside a safe shelter and gather enough food, water, and other supplies to last 72 hours. The Guardian reported this was a clear sign that a ground assault in Gaza is imminent, adding that Israeli tanks and military helicopters were seen on an Israeli highway that runs parallel to the Gaza Strip. Citing Israel's chief military spokesperson, the Wall Street Journal also stated that Israel has called up 300,000 reservists, noting the number suggests preparations for a possible invasion. As Washington works to prevent a broader conflict, U.S. President Joe Biden said his country is rushing more military assistance, including ammunition and missile interceptors, to replenish Israel's Iron Dome defense system. Adding that he's going to make sure Israel doesn't run out of these critical assets, he condemned Hamas's latest attack, calling it an act of sheer evil.
We stand with Israel, and we will make sure Israel has what it needs to take care of its citizens, defend itself, and respond to this attack. There's no justification for terrorism. There's no excuse.
Biden's remarks come after the aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford arrived in the region with its accompanying guided missile cruiser and destroyers. The first U.S. plane carrying advanced weaponry has also arrived at an airbase in southern Israel, according to the Israel Defense Forces. It also comes amid growing fears that the armed group Hezbollah, based in Lebanon, could also initiate a war with Israel. The Iran-backed group has already exchanged fire with Israel after 3 of its members were killed in Israeli strikes. Hezbollah is a militant group that was formed in 1982 to fight Israel's occupation of southern Lebanon and has described Hamas's latest attack as a decisive response to Israel's continued occupation. Its involvement could lead to a serious conflict, as the group claims to have precision rockets that can hit all parts of Israel. Peunji, Arirang News.
Over the weekend, there was a horror of attack by Hamas at a music festival in southern Israel that resulted in hundreds of civilian casualties and kidnappings. Our Choi Soo-young spoke to one of the survivors of this horrific incident.
In one brief moment, a music festival meant for joy turned into a nightmare in southern Israel near the Gaza border on Saturday morning. Hila, a 26-year-old part-time bartender at the festival, told Arirang News that a rocket went off overhead. She thought it was fireworks.
I was telling to one of the customers, hey, look, there is the fireworks. And he looked at the sky and told me, I don't think it's fireworks. And we see a lot of red alarm, we call it in Israel, when like it's a missiles and rockets alarms. And then the production shut out the music and scream, there's a lot of missiles and rockets, run or hide.
At first, she hid inside the bar, frozen still in fear. One of her friends grabbed her hand to get off there.
And I turn around and see all the terrorists. People start to falling one by one, just like it doesn't related to if you're a soldier or an innocent civilian. How old are you? What is your gender? What is your religion? If you're Israeli or not? Just shooting all the people.
Some of her friends were killed in the massacre terror at the festival, and the fate of some is uncertain.
They're raping my friends. I have 3 friends that are already dead. 2 of them, we don't know what's happened to them, and 2 of them inside of Gaza. That one of the things that I do remember, it's really in my mind, that while we are running and screaming and crying, I hear them singing and laughing.
A freelance journalist based in Tel Aviv, Israel, delivers the current situation from the field in Gaza.
The authorities in Israel ended up finding 260 dead bodies just from this festival alone. I know in one of the communities where a good friend of mine lives, at least 15 people, even within her community, were murdered, dragged out of their homes and shot pretty much execution style, in her words.
She added almost 360,000 reserve troops, including volunteers, have been called up throughout the country.
And Israel doesn't want to kill anyone. We don't want to kill Palestinians. That's not what the ethos of this country is about. But Israel must defend itself, and we don't have any choice.
They said that Palestine and Hamas are completely different, and that the terrorist organization must stop. Hyung, Arirang News.
President Yoon has for the first time condemned the Hamas group for its indiscriminate attack on Israel. The president today met with U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who is quickly wrapping up his Asia visit due to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. Yoon's office said the 2 leaders both condemned the attack by the Palestinian group and agreed that Seoul and Washington should play a constructive role in swiftly ending the crisis and finding stability. This comes after Yoon convened an emergency meeting to review the security and economic impact of the Israel-Hamas conflict.
이스라엘 하마스 사태가 전면적 양상으로 치닫고 있습니다. 이미 수천 명의 사상자가 발생했습니다. 여러 국가의 입장과 이해관계가 첨예하게 얽혀있는 사안인 만큼 사태의 확대 가능성을 배제하기 어렵습니다.
He said a prolonged crisis in the Middle East, in addition to the war in Ukraine, could cause further disruptions in energy security and supply chains around the world. The president reiterated that the need to prepare for risks to the safety and livelihoods of South Korean nationals, calling on the government to monitor the situation thoroughly and take preemptive steps to minimize the fallout of the conflict. Another powerful earthquake struck western Afghanistan on Wednesday morning, just days after devastating quakes that left thousands dead. The 6.3 magnitude earthquake struck about 28 kilometers north of the city of Herat and was followed by 2 more quakes. Reportedly, at least 80 people have been injured, while a main highway is blocked due to a landslide. According to AP, the landslide destroyed all 700 homes in Chok village. Although no deaths have been reported yet, following the deadly earthquakes in Herat province on Saturday, over 10,000 families have been reportedly affected. The latest trade data shows that South Korea's current account surplus extended for 4 months in a row in August. But yet again, it was mainly on the back of a greater fall in imports than exports. But pundits believe prospects for the final quarter are brighter. Park Gun-woo has the latest findings and forecast.
South Korea's current account was in the black in August for the 4th straight month. Preliminary data by the Bank of Korea released on Wednesday shows a current account surplus of $4.81 billion in August, as imports dropped deeper than exports. The cumulative surplus from January to August was around $10.9 billion. even though the figure was only about half compared to the same period last year. An official from the central bank said South Korea will be able to reach its target of $24.5 billion by the end of 2023.
If we see an average of $4 billion of surplus each month from September to December, we will be able to reach the target for this year. We tentatively expect the surplus to be higher in September compared to August.
He supported this outlook by citing expected decreases in overseas travel and better trade conditions in September, and added the situation will get better in the last quarter. By category, the goods balance saw a surplus for the 5th consecutive month, exceeding $5 billion, the highest since March last year. Exports in August were down 8.3% on year, continuing a trend that began 12 months ago. Although automobile exports increased over 28% on month, decreases in petroleum products and semiconductors led to a drop in the overall export volume. In terms of region, outbound shipments to the Middle East, the EU, and the United States rose on year, but dropped in a number of regions, including China. Imports decreased about 22% compared to last year, with an even greater drop for both volume and ratio as imports of raw materials, capital goods, and consumer goods all fell. The service balance was in the red again in August, with a $1.6 billion deficit, mainly due to a higher travel account deficit than last year after COVID-19 measures were eased. In August, the financial account balance exceeded $5.7 billion as Korean investment in overseas markets increased by over $3.4 billion. Park Eun-woo, Arirang News.
South Korea saw a trade balance deficit of $5.3 billion for the first 10 days of October. Korea Customs Service says the nation's export volume during the period was at $11.6 billion. This is a drop of 1.7% year-on-year, mainly due to continuous drops in the exports of semiconductors. But when considering that there was 1/2 day less this year compared to last year, the outbound shipment volume increased a little over 9%. For imports, the total volume jumped 8.4% to almost $17 billion. Samsung Electronics' estimated operating profit for the third quarter has topped 2 trillion Korean won. It was driven by a robust performance in the mobile phone and display sectors. Also, the semiconductor division made significant strides in reducing its deficit during the same period. Our business correspondent Shin Ha-young has more.
Samsung Electronics is forecasting an improvement in its performance for the third quarter of this year. The South Korean tech giant reported on Wednesday an estimated third quarter operating profit of 2.4 trillion Korean won, or around $1.8 billion, down almost 78% from the same period last year. But this is a distinct improvement from the previous quarters of 2023, with the operating profit skyrocketing roughly threefold compared to the second quarter. In fact, it's an earnings surprise far exceeding market expectations of around 1.9 trillion won. Estimated sales for the third quarter plunged more than 12% year-on-year, but rose over 11% from the previous quarter to 67 trillion won, or around $50 billion. Operating profits for both the first and second quarters plunged by more than 95% year-on-year. This came as the company's semiconductor sector saw consecutive deficits of around 4 trillion won during the period. The company did not disclose the details of its key business sectors, but analysts expect the losses at its semiconductor unit were offset by strong performances by its mobile phone and display divisions, thanks to the release of its Galaxy Z Flip 5 and Fold 5 smartphones. Experts expect that the deficit at the semiconductor unit decreased in the third quarter due to production cuts.
It takes about 6 months to see the effects of Samsung Electronics chip production cuts initiated in April. Due to the cuts, prices for memory chips, the DRAM and NAND flash, are no longer decreasing. As a result, Samsung's losses in its semiconductor unit for the third quarter are likely to be reduced.
He added that IT firms, data centers, and electronics manufacturers have nearly depleted their inventories, so there is the expectation they will start ordering more in the fourth quarter, which will lead to a growth in semiconductor sales, which could even see the division get out of the red. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, the nation's leading think tank says the Korean economy is showing slow but tangible resilience in the face of broader market challenges. Yoon explains.
As the U.S. continues its monetary tightening policies and the pressures of global inflation remain driven by rising oil prices, the strain on the South Korean economy persists. But the contraction in the country's exports is lessening, with the manufacturing industry seeing an accelerating trend in production and expectations of a moderation in the overall economic sluggishness. In August, production grew by 1.5%, which reversed the previous month's decline of a negative 1.5%. Growth was seen in industrial production as demand heightened for high-performance semiconductors, especially those used in AI servers, as well as in services production, including financial and insurance services. Financial transactions were also up as more people traveled overseas. And a rise in foreign tourists coming to Korea also marked a narrower decline in accommodation and food services. Consumer goods consumption remains slow, mainly due to an ongoing reduction in real income on the back of high prices and interest rates. In August, retail sales showed a further decline from a negative 1.7% the previous year to a negative 4.8%. This includes poor growth in terms of imported passenger cars as well as food and beverages. Meanwhile, the local housing market is seeing a recovery in demand, especially in the capital metropolitan area. But a significant reduction in housing permits and new construction projects remains, leaving concerns over the supply of housing in the future. The OECD recently revised the global economic outlook for 2023 to 3%, but expects 2.7% by 2024, below the average for the period between 2011 and 2019, which was at 3.5%. 이은진, Arirang News.
Prices of salt and sugar hit new annual highs last month. According to Statistics Korea on Wednesday, the consumer price index for sugar in September saw an on-year jump of 16.9%. Salt prices also soared 17.3% on-year. Experts are linking the findings to heavy rain and greater demand for stockpiles amid Japan's Fukushima wastewater release. They also believe the hike in prices of such raw materials may further fuel inflation. China will host its third Belt and Road Forum next week in Beijing. The country's foreign ministry said Wednesday that the conference will take place on October 17th and 18th. The conference marks the 10th anniversary of the launch of China's Belt and Road Initiative, which seeks to connect China, Central Asia, Africa, and Europe via land and maritime networks to stimulate economic growth. Russian President Vladimir Putin is expected to attend and meet with Xi for talks. Putin attended the two previous forums in 2017 and 2019. Representatives from 130 countries, including from Latin America and Africa, are also anticipated to attend the conference. It looks like it won't be too long before robots are doing most of our chores. From a cleaning robot that responds to human gestures to robots that can solve labor shortages. Cutting-edge robots are front and center at South Korea's largest robot exhibition. Our Moon Hae-ryun takes us to Robot World 2023, which offers a glimpse of a future where robots coexist with humans.
Robots that can fry food, robots that can walk on all fours, robots that can piece things together. These are just some of the robots on display at the country's largest robot convention this year. Starting on Tuesday and running until Saturday, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy is hosting the biggest robot world yet.
Here at Robot World 2023, over 240 companies and organizations are showcasing a future where robots and humans can walk side by side.
This is a robot that serves, but unlike most serving robots that follow a given path, this one can navigate through narrow spaces. It can also avoid small objects on the floor, but its biggest development is the way it responds to human gestures. Raising a hand will register in its system through a camera sensor, prompting it to wheel over. This South Korean company also developed the first cleaning robot in the world that, instead of wheels, has a mop that swivels to move. This year, it's been upgraded so that it can pass over raised door sills into different rooms. But robots are now advancing beyond assisting humans in their daily lives. Now we're a step closer to coexisting with robots and having them work with each other. The Korea Institute of Science and Technology has developed a sequence of coordinated robots to create the ultimate cafe experience. Robots take your order, make the coffee, serve it to your table, and also serenade you with music.
This demonstration shows how different robots will be able to coexist with us in the future.
And it's not just in our everyday routine where robots come in handy. In industrial production, they're key workers. Labor shortages in the shipbuilding industry are a serious issue all around the world. Not only are there not enough people, but as jobs such as welding require special training, it's difficult to find people who have enough experience to produce the quality of work needed. With these robots, however, anyone can weld.
This robot just needs a starting point of welding, and then it will do the job for you.
With the expansion of robots in a wide variety of fields from service to manufacturing, it's fast becoming a key future industry for the country. The government will be announcing its fourth basic plan for intelligent robots within the year in order to foster the robotics industry further. 문혜련, Arirang News.
Lego plastic bricks could be small, but they often spark big imaginative creations for many, including children and adults alike. And there happens to be an artist who's using them to reimagine traditional Korean culture. Our correspondent Song Yoo-jin has this story.
The soulful sound of the Korean traditional song Pansori harmonizes with the graceful moves of chuningmu, a Korean traditional dance. What makes this performance even more captivating is a Lego ensemble seemingly dancing and playing music in the background. It's all part of Lego artist So Jin-ho or Colin Jin's first solo exhibition, Colin Jin's Historical Lego, where plastic blocks breathe life into tradition.
Korean culture is enjoying global popularity, but in reality, everything popular today is quite modern. It made me wonder if we might be losing touch with our history. I began delving into our cultural heritage from the past and got the idea of using Lego blocks to connect the past with the present.
The exhibition showcases 100 Lego artworks depicting Korean cultural heritage. The highlight is the Jongmyo Jereak, a royal ancestral ritual that was carried out between the 14th and 19th centuries during the Joseon dynasty. A UNESCO cultural heritage, this Confucian ceremony features song, dance, and music with dozens of performers.
The playful combination of the traditional orchestra, so even the traditional Korean instruments are in there, several of them. So I think it's quite exciting.
You can also enjoy Lego versions of the Korean folk dance Seungmu, a dragon-faced roof tile from the ancient Silla kingdom, and the Korean mask Tal. It took So 18 months and over 10,000 blocks to finish his creations, and he didn't rely on any customized Lego blocks or manuals. The exhibition's goal: to entertain and educate visitors.
Making Korean culture and the arts easily enjoyable for everyone is a wonderful endeavor. We're delighted to be a part of the opening ceremony and look forward to promoting our cultural heritage to a wider audience.
A reinterpretation of traditional Korean beauty through the lens of one of the modern era's most iconic toys, Colin Jin's Historical Lego is on show at the Moriham exhibition in Central Seoul for 2 weeks. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
Typical autumn weather will prevail tomorrow with big fluctuation in daily temperatures. Seoul will see readings in the similar range with lows of 13 degrees Celsius. But other regions such as Andong and Daegwallyeong will see lows falling into single figures. A high pressure system throughout the daytime will bring temperatures up by about 10 degrees. Make sure to dress in layers to keep your body temperatures warm. And high waves are in store for the East Coast until tomorrow. For those near the shorelines, please stay away from breakwaters and piers. For Gangwon-do province and other mountainous regions, readings will be plummeting overnight. This may cause frost and even ice. Sunny skies will be dominating nationwide. Seoul and Gwangju will be starting off at 13 degrees. As for the daily highs, Seoul and Daejeon will get up to 23 degrees. Chuncheon will make it to 22 degrees. Light showers are expected for central regions on Saturday. Conditions will get a tad breezier next week with lows of 11 degrees in Seoul. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is all for this Wednesday night newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest news. Good night.